So the way to beat the pandemic and future pandemics and to save the planet is actually the same, which is we have to change our lifestyles. It's inconvenient, it's challenging, but the alternative is ultimately the destruction of our planet and no future for anybody. And the way you do that, like I've talked about in the how to save the planet thing, I talked about specific models and methods and just kind of going over it. But like that's what you got to do is get off of this fossil fuel, and you got to be honest with yourself and with others. Is that like, listen, the cause of climate change isn't our emissions; it's because we're taking it out of the ground, and so we have to do everything we can to reduce that. And you have to be honest with that, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. People are already confused. They're not sure of what's going on, and they don't trust. So you got to be able to prove it, which is done, and then move forward with that in creating like a transition plan. We transition to sustainable energy, but the good news of it is like that's hard. The pandemic's hard, and it's gonna be. I'm predicting it's gonna get down the road. It's gonna come back with just. It's gonna be bad, but the way you get around that is by developing different systems. You create, like I said, you go to more community living where you live more sustainably. You plant gardens. It sounds crazy. It sounds weird because we're so not used to that. But we've been living in what's harmful to our planet for so long, and it's so convenient. Sure, you're not going to be able to drive across the city so easily to meet that girl on Tinder, or let alone drive across the country for this and that. You're not going to be able to fly to the Bahamas. Look, but listen, is not having a future more important? You know what I meant? Is having a future not more important than flying to the Bahamas? Like, come on. Are we so entitled and spoiled that this is the way we live? We can't utilize technology. Like, with all these advances with like from everything from checkouts with cashless, cashierless, whatever you call it, checkouts, the only people that are benefiting from that right now are the corporations. But we need to make that work for society. All the systems can be changed and modified and corrected. That's fairly easy, but no one's willing to have the conversation about it. And by creating these communities, it's easier to maintain pandemics and pandemic breakouts. So, if one area has a breakout, you just lock down that area, and then you have the way you develop society is you have like points, where like exposure points, and you just watch those closer. So then it doesn't spread near as fast. You're not doing the travel overseas, and we can build back to how it was. Okay, sustainable energy is right around the corner. I see it in news articles and everything all day, like often, where it's like, oh yeah, we've had this major breakthrough with sustainable energy. And by the way, I did a lot of work in sustainable energy, and I never get mentioned, and I'm beyond, I don't care, okay? It would be great to have credit for that and to be able to help people and use that money for helping people, but just do it. Get it out there to people. But you're welcome, okay? So let's save the planet here. Because so you develop, what you do is you develop sustainable energy, and it's really easy to do. It's really easy to do. You get that out to major city populations first, and do what you can there, and then like for places like Canada where it's cold and we're using gas, which is far worse than coal, by the way. Gas is far worse than coal because it's part of the core pressure. I think coal has less of an effect of that. Because remember, it's not our emissions that cause climate change, it's fossil fuel extraction, okay, because we need that core. And then so you switch our heaters over from fossil fuel, like from gas powered, to electric. It's not that hard. And while I'm talking about science, the way that I look at things, like gravity is just electromagnetism, right? And so I'm talking about the fundamental forces here. So the way I look at things is there's two fundamental forces. One is electromagnetism, the other one being nuclear, which is basically fire, okay? So like, you explain those two things, and I should get back, if I was to do that properly, I'd get back into that and study it in depth again so I can explain it better. But the way I look at it is there's two main sources of heat. There's like a fire source, which is a nuclear reaction, and then there's electromagnetism, right? And we have both of those heat sources available to us already. Whereas we have electric heaters and we have natural gas heaters. We have furnaces and fires and all kinds of things. So those are the two things, and just to utilizing our resources better. So again, fundamental, the two fundamental power, whatever, nuclear, and electromagnetism. Which, by the way, I watched this old video of was Carl Sagan in front of an Al Gore. Actually, it was actually inspiring to watch this. And they're blaming this, and they're having a hard time doing it, explaining this. What do you guys call it? The greenhouse effect, right? Well, we calculate this amount of heating, and we're missing a whole bunch, so it's got to be this greenhouse effect. But what they're missing is the Earth's core. Okay, so the Earth's core, the lower you go, the hotter it gets, right? And so we need that pressure and everything to maintain that heat and that electromagnetism at the Earth's core. As we weaken the upper layers, all that energy is released. So, but at the Earth's core, there's that furnace, there's a flame going on there and actual heat. And there's actually, like they say publicly, that there's, I explain it differently, but it's the same kind of thing. There's hot molten lava. Well, that hot lava is literally producing a ton of heat. It's electromagnetic. There's got a lot of electromagnetism in there, and it's combined with a nuclear reaction. All that stuff's going on at the Earth's core, and that would be what they were missing. That's why climate predictions are off. That's why we're missing things on this. So when I explained sustainable energy, I was able to do that because I understood what was going on at the Earth's core. And now they're doing it and they're mimicking it. From what I understand, they're very close to being able to have a working model of this where they're able to produce a ton of energy. And I'm sure that if I worked in the field, I'd be able to finish it and hurry it up. And I hope that they do, because we need to save this planet, okay? Our future and changing our society is more important than our conveniences. Okay, I would love, if you have any questions, feel free to come here and ask. So the way to beat this pandemic and future pandemics is the same way to save the planet, and that's changing the way we live, our monetary system, our economy, transitioning our transportation grid, or the way we do farming. It's easy to do, and we got to do it together. All right? So that's it for that rant. Oh, the other thing I was going to explain, like the heating from Neptune, right? This goes to the heating of Neptune while I'm on the subject of science, which, I kind of enjoy. The heating of Neptune. Neptune's hotter than closer planets, like I think it's Uranus or whatever. So the Neptune has a bigger, stronger core. That core is producing a bunch of heat. That's why it's warmer than closer planets to the sun. They've left out core energy, essentially. Okay, and then so there's a thing down there moving around. There's what we call globular clusters, they're called for a while, but there's spots of mass that move around down in Earth's core and in celestial cores. So that's what's moving around down in there. Okay, and those things, those energy pockets, are bringing with them cyclones and hurricanes, and when I talk about Revelations, I forget what number it is in Revelations, but it's like there were 4 winds on the 4 corners of the earth, and and they sucked up all the air and wind and rain, and it didn't rain anywhere else because we destroyed the electromagnetosphere, but there were still those cyclones going around, and that was pulling, the sun's connected to it, pulling that stuff away. So all the air, and wind is just water too, right? So all the water is being sucked away from the 4 corners of the earth from these 4 points, which is arguably what I think is the swastika. The swastika, which is like a picture of the Earth's core with the 4 things going around there, and with that kind of lining swishing around. And we've destroyed other planets, right? This isn't the first time. Just look out into the solar system. We're surrounded by dead planets and dead stars. I think that's the end of this rant. Yes. Talk to you guys later.